Joining me live now from Geelong is the Deputy Prime Minister and Defence Minister Richard Marles. Richard Marles, thanks for your time this morning.
Pleasure, Andrew.
I might start with your visit to Indonesia late last week to meet the Defence Minister and presumptive next President, Prabowo Subianto. Was this aimed at working on stopping more asylum boats after an asylum boat arrived a couple of weeks ago? And did you offer any financial help to the Indonesians to help get on top of the people smuggling trade?
Well, the focus of this trip, Andrew, was the Defence Cooperation Agreement that we've been working on very closely with Indonesia. In fact, it's been my third visit to Indonesia in the last 9 months, and as both Prabowo Subianto and myself said after our meeting, we hope to be in a position of signing a defence cooperation agreement between our two countries in the coming months. And if we do that, it is a complete game changer, really, in terms of our national security, our defence cooperation. It would be the most significant defence cooperation agreement between our two countries, the first at a treaty level. So that's been the focus of my engagement with Indonesia for some time and was the focus of this trip. We certainly spoke about the question of people smuggling and human trafficking. It's a shared challenge for both nations, and I'm not going to go into the detail of it, but I think that the important point to understand is that we both feel that in terms of meeting the collective challenge on this issue, that we need to be cooperating at a level that we've never done before, and that is what we are doing. And as a result of the deep cooperation that we have with Indonesia, we are able to stop ventures coming to Australia before they ever hit the water, and we are able to do so much more when we see this as a shared challenge between both of our countries, which we do.
So did you put any more money on the table off of that?
We've had a regional cooperation agreement with Indonesia for a very long period of time, which does provide support into Indonesia, and that's been the case across governments of both persuasions. We'd had no specifics in relation to that question, and I'm not about to go into details. But what we did make clear was that the degree of cooperation that we have is central to the joint challenge that we both face. So this wasn't a meeting about financial support. This was a meeting about how we can work more closely together and a renewed commitment that we'll do that.
How concerned is the government this one boat coming in about a week and a half ago will lead to more boats coming? And what do you make of the opposition criticism that you've cut funding in terms of surveilling our border?
Well, that criticism is just frankly a lie. I mean, it is actually not true. We've increased funding to the support of our border.
Why do the budget papers show otherwise? Why do the budget papers seem to suggest?
That is not what the budget papers show. I mean, the budget papers demonstrate that we have increased our work in this area, increased our expenditure in this area. And what we hear from the opposition time and again is simply peddling mistruths about where the government is spending money.
Sorry, Deputy PM.
The government has increased money.
But it might have increased them into this year or whatever, but the forward estimates appear to show it tailing off in Home Affairs and Border Force. Why is that the case?
The government has increased expenditure on our border. No ifs, no buts. It's a matter of record. And the fact that the opposition is desperately trying to say otherwise says more about the way in which the opposition goes about its business than it does about the reality of border protection in this country. I mean, we are really focused on ensuring that our agencies, Australian Border Force, have the resources they need to keep our borders safe. That's why we have increased funding to them in respect of this. And that is the important point to make. we're not sanguine about the future. We take this in a really vigilant way, and we are very seized of the issues when they occur. So not for a moment am I telling you that we are sanguine about it. But in our focus, we are determined to make sure that we have the strongest borders possible. We have maintained every border setting that was under the former government, and we have increased our expenditure towards it.
All right,
and we do see ourselves working very cooperatively with our neighbours in relation to this shared challenge.
Mr. Miles, I don't want to labour the point here, but I've got in front of me budget expenses for border enforcement. It says 2023-24, 1.27 billion. 24-25 forward estimate, 1.08 billion. Then 25-26, 1.078 billion. And 26-27, 1.087 billion. So when it comes down from 1.27 billion, how is that increasing your commitment? Or have you allocated funds since the budget?
Well, Andrew, that in any area of government expense, there's a funding profile. That funding profile, relative to what we inherited from the former government, sees an increase. That's the point I'm making. I mean, they're saying we've cut funding to the border relative to what they plan to expend. That is not true. We have increased it. And that is the point that needs to be understood here. And obviously, as we go forward, all of those circumstances get reviewed based on what challenges we face. Point here is we're increasing our expenditure to the border, and we are utterly focused on it. And we're not sanguine about the challenges that we face, but we are confident that we're meeting them.
All right. One day before the Prime Minister said he didn't know about the asylum seeker boat, the Sky News presenter Sherry Markson said she got an email suggesting, anonymous tip by the sound of it, that there was an illegal arrival on the Thursday night. Did you know on the Thursday, the last sitting day of Parliament, about this boat?
Well, the last thing I'm going to do is start commenting on anonymous tips which have been sent to journalists.
But let's stick to the point here. Did you know on the Thursday?
Well, no. Well, I mean, I didn't, but nor am I about to go through a process of commenting on every anonymous tip that goes to a journalist. The critical point here, if we stick to the point, Andrew, is that this boat came and those who arrived were dealt with. They are now on Nauru. The process worked as it is meant to work. And so in that sense, Australians can look to the way in which this government acted and know that the border was kept in with security in the context of how this system is meant to work. And those the people who came here are no longer in Australia, they are in Nauru. Now, we will, as I say, continue to maintain every setting on our border that we've inherited from the former government. And the opposition obviously want to do everything they can to be talking about this issue, and they don't mind what mistruths they spread along the way. But in the national interest, if we are to focus on that, our borders are strong. We are working with our neighbours in the most highly cooperative way, and we are resourcing what needs to be done on our borders.